G'day. It's time to down your unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
G'day, ladies and gents, everyone out there in this big wide world of 40K. We are back with episode 216 of the Art of War Down Under podcast. My name is always Adam Camilleri, and I am joined by the two lovely gentlemen from across the ditch. First and foremost, the Capitan of New Zealand WTC, Finn the Finisher Decker. And of course, coming on this show, you will be given a nickname at random, and no, you cannot argue. Hello, Finn. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
He will finish you, for better or worse.
Oh.
Charlie Kang, who from the Tactical Chilli podcast. I cannot tell you why it's called Tactical Chilli. In fact, I'm going to ask him on part 2 about that goodness. But you were also one of the coaches for the WTC team this year, weren't you, Charlie?
Yes, I was. The start of the coaching team for Team New Zealand. It's really cool. Thanks for having me on.
No, my great pleasure to have you on, mate. And congratulations on your terrible nickname. Hopefully you may live forever and piss you off for many years to come. Now, we are here to review the core rules and mission changes from the latest MFM and updates from GW. And, of course, last week we did the points update. So we are releasing this episode a day late. We're recording a day after the release schedule. Do apologise for that. We had a bit of a unwellness and a clash of schedules because these boys are a few hours ahead. They're even in the more future of Australia's future. But I'm going to give them a chance to plug their wares. And I know Finn's going to say something stupid, so I'm going to start with Charlie.
Oh, thanks, mate. So hey, everyone. I am part of a podcast called Tactical Chilli Wargaming. We're on YouTube and Spotify. We just generally talk smack about the New Zealand tournaments, results, and invite guests on and, just try and build a bit of a community. Tune in. We're going to do an episode this week about our Teams event coming up this weekend. So that's going to be really spicy.
Fantastic. What's the name of the Teams event if people want to check it out on BCP?
It's called Immortal Chili.
Love it. May or may not be getting reviewed on another show that I do, the One Meta Chases this week. We will see. Finn, anything you want to tell us about? Maybe you want to be a professional and tell us about New Zealand WTC, or maybe you want to have a bit of a meme.
Basically for me, most of the stuff to follow in regards to like New Zealand WTC is Team New Zealand 40K on Facebook. This year, hoping to do a lot more like interactive stuff with the community, things like that. So yeah, Team New Zealand 40K on Facebook is the main place to kind of follow what we're doing.
And do you want to shout out so Finn and I are forming a bit of an alliance, trying to get a sponsorship done for Art of War Down Under. Do you want to kick that off, mate, and announce what we're trying to have happen?
So we're trying to get Naracoorte McDonald's to give us some sponsorship. Number one customer group here. We are.
We'll have a story for you if you want to jump over to part 2, which is available on Patreon. We have a juicy part 2 where we'll be doing a Q&A based on the core rules changes, in addition to talking some absolute awesome stuff about New Zealand 40K, how it's doing, what it's brewing, and what makes it unique and spicy. In addition, Finn and I we'll be having story time with Finn over on part 2, because Finn and I stayed together and hung out together at Terraform this year, in addition to a bunch of other lovely people, and we have some silliness to divulge upon you, in addition to why I'm seeking sponsorship from Naracoorte McDonald's, tongue in cheek. But let us jump into the changes. So first and foremost, Charlie, all the points changes, all the rules changes, how do you feel about it personally? How do you think GW did with this update in October?
I think it was it surprised me a little bit because we were planning an event right off the very close to the cutoff, one of our 2 days. And actually, no, sorry, the 2 day was before the cutoff, the teams event, and everyone's going, are you going to use it? Are you going to use it? Like, do we know when it's coming out? And I'm going, well, T-Suns will get nerfed. Wolfjail's probably going to get nerfed, but I don't expect too many changes apart from that. But there's actually been quite a few different changes and pleasantly surprised. I think it's better for the game.
Nice. Finn, what are your thoughts?
I like it. I think there's a lot of things that have changed that it's kind of spiced it up a little bit in terms of your list writing. I know I've had to change a few things. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about some of the stuff it was probably just a bit good to be hopeful that it stays.
Finn, I think your list went up 170 points, was it?
Which faction was that? Hey, Finn.
CSM.
Surprise,
In all honesty, it's not even like the points changes that like hurt the list I played at the last event. It's more the surge move changes.
Well, what a beautiful freaking segue. Well done, sir. You must be a professional at this or something. But the surge move has changed. The first one of the rules changes we're going to talk about, because it's probably the one that actually is going to affect list design from where we were to where we're going the most. So right now, surge moves have changed. That's pretty much everything that had a reactive move attached to its data sheet as a result of being shot or losing a model. So everything from Accursed Cultists to some Space Force units to Khorne Berserkers, etc., whatever. They are now restricted to being once per face. So essentially, that straight up means that if you have nothing within 7.1 inches of them, you can shoot them with impunity. They can no longer surge and surge again. They can never surge when battle shocked. They can never surge when in engagement range, because obviously that one was stupid as hell. And they do, but now on the flip side, the only other thing that they've given them is they don't have to move the full distance when they surge. And that's just been more of a clarification, because I already knew some people reading between the lines being like, obviously you don't have to move the full surge. But Finn, seeing as this obviously affected you a lot, tell us your thoughts on it.
Like I've put it this way, I think it's good for the game that it's not. There's some of the things you could set up, especially if people didn't quite understand how Surge works. You know, like you explain it to them before the game, that sort of thing. But then if they're not kind of thinking about how you're going to do something, like some of the things you could do with like moving like out of range of things, but also then tagging another objective, those sorts of things, it got quite interesting, like a lot of fun to play, but also from the opponent's side of things, if they didn't 100% know what was going on, not so much.
Like surge moves were straight up one of the last bastions of double move left in the game that wasn't attached to a resource expenditure, wasn't attached to a cabal point, wasn't attached to a CP, wasn't attached to anything. It was just literally, okay, you shoot this unit that you pretty much have to kill to win the game anyway, and bada bing, bada boom, I move again. You shoot me again, I move again. And it used to get really, really, really punishing. And of course, this was an absolute Timmy smashing mechanic, as in like if it was even just two players who are very new at the game playing against each other, this would make the game fairly unfun for multiple parties. But Charlie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's definitely better to standardize because there were quite a few different ones. You named the three top offenders that people probably have played against. Just being able to know what to expect, because like the CSM, the Accursed Cultists, they surge move unlimited, and Space Wolves ones, the Thunderwolf can do it even when battle shocked. Everyone was slightly different, which is really annoying trying to keep up with the rules. Not to mention the same rule but three different versions. And I think this is just good overall, because a lot of things that catch people off guard is combined with your reactive move as well. In what's effectively my turn, I have to deal with your unit moving up to twice, two more times, and all of a sudden it completely changes my game plan.
Exactly right. Yeah, having the mental dexterity you needed to play against the triple Accursed Cultist units was just so much more than pretty much any other army in the game could pretty much throw at you. It was very akin to playing. I found it very akin to playing against Ynnari, double or triple spear Ynnari in 8th edition. Did either of you boys play 8th edition?
I got back into the game in 8th edition.
Same.
And I learnt to play 40k playing into Ynnari. It was very fun.
There you go. It was a similar amount of forward planning, like not getting caught out, not getting gotcha'd, but also you have to be paranoid. You have to be paranoid to play into surge moves. And now, do you think this is a death knell to units that have surge moves? Do they now just have a worthless ability, Charlie?
I don't think so. I think it's still something you would rather have than not have. You just have to be a bit more careful where you position when you do want to surge move, and it's easier for people to bait out.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, we know Accursed Cultists in particular got a pretty much the same treatment as the Eradicator brick, as in a multi-faceted, everything went up kind of smack in the teeth. Finn, is it a death knell to a Cursed Cultist in your minds, or do you think they find another mode, another reason, another way to exist?
Like I've still got them in my list. I've been talking to Matt Morrisoli as well a lot, and so there's definitely still play with them. Maybe only in the smaller bricks. They've still got a scout move. Things like that. So they've still got good utility in the game. You just don't use them in the same way that you did.
Yeah, you don't use them as an oppressive piece. They're more of a very durable for the points piece, right? Like we actually saw a similar thing happen to them in 9th edition, didn't we?
Yep. It was like, if you look back at LVO, we had like a little 8-man. Everyone else was taking the big 30-man bricks. The big bricks, like 3 of, and Matt and I ended up just taking 1 brick and 1 8-man brick, just for a utility piece. So there's definitely ways to still play with them in the game, but obviously not in the same way that they were.
Yeah, exactly right. How do we feel as this has a run-on effect into, say, Wolf Jail or the 10 and 5-man units of Zerkers we would see pretty often in World Eaters lists? Also, are there any other big hits? I know I think there was a Blood Surge move in GSC somewhere. I'm not sure if it was attached to like the Brood Surge or if it's actually attached to A-bombs or anything like that.
I think it was the Acolytes or the Metamorphs.
The Metamorphs, the hybrid Metamorphs, that's right.
Yeah. I think the issue is if they get shot, they generally just die.
Yeah, well, they don't get to surge. Yeah, not a big deal. Your guardsman has a surge move. All right, cool. I'll just shoot it with like 2 flamers, and it's pretty much
like
gone.
if Kanachan had surge moves, do you really worry about it? Like,
what do you do?
I think people will still forget how fast these units are because the big 3 that we talk about, they can all advance and charge as well. Generally, when you're facing them, right? So if you can go and bait out an Overwatch, then you get your surge move plus your normal move plus your advance, and then you charge in. It's still super fast and can catch people off guard.
So what you're alluding to is that they'll still have utility in that kind of put people in jail role, because even if you go and you line off their deployment zone, well, they still have to back outside 7.1, as in backing further away from the middle of the table in order to have an impact. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Like there is a result from this you using this as an aggressive tactic. Finn, any other surge move goodies we can extrapolate?
I think you can bait a guy to see if someone's going to shoot it, but like if you're playing, like, again, it's one of those things that's still just going to make the easier games just good. Like, how do I say this without it's you know what I mean? Like, basically, if like you're playing the lower table games, they're gonna, like, if you can leave one guy out, if someone shoots it, so you're still gonna get that extra movement onto an objective. Yeah. It's just gonna help you make those games, like the early games at an event, a bit easier.
Well, my biggest tool for surge moves now is the fact that 7.1 is if I am just like half an inch onto an objective with one guy, 7.1 means that they can't be on the objective and be safe. So either they have to get off the objective before they interact with that unit, or they have to risk getting me rolling the 6 and getting right into them, and then they can't shoot me anymore. So being used as a bully tactic to get insurance and safety at holding and maintaining objective control, I think one of the better things you can do with it now. Alrighty-o, let's move on to the second of the changes. Of course, that one I believe is the biggest one. But the next one is, and these are in no particular order, these are in the order that I discovered them and wrote them down. I also I got to have a shout out to Goonhammer as well, because I did read over theirs and make sure I used some of their, because they had really good examples used. So go over and check out the Goonhammer articles as well. Probably a good thing to do is to read along the Goonhammer articles while we're doing this. Goonhammer are excellent at what they do and are definitely worthy of your support. So beginning of phase and during phase are now different things. This is kind of silly but necessary. So all this means is that you can't use a during the phase ability before using a beginning of the phase ability, as far as I can figure it out. And the example I have had pointed out to me is, I think it's Thousand Suns, where they would use their warp, they would move out, use their warp side ability or whichever ability it was, and then which was a during phase ability, and then use temporal surge, which is the beginning of the phase ability, and punk themselves back. So now that apparently is not a thing. But can you guys think of any other things that you use in your armies that this affects?
I cannot.
Me
I'm
either.
just thinking this as a Custodes player, this makes Wardens even worse, right? Because you have to declare it. You can't. Yeah, I don't know. What I'm thinking in my head is your opponent can wait for you to declare it before they declare anything they really want to do during their turn in terms of the fight phase.
That's true. Yep.
I don't know if I've got the order. This is confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit of a confusing one, and I'm trying to figure out what the actual runoff is of this. The only one I could think of was the T-Suns one, and so let's just hit T-Suns some more, boys, because if they're already down, let's put them in the dirt.
I did read that certain rules, if you react to something like the T-Suns starter phase ability, that can still be used.
Okay. Oh, yes, I did also read that reactives. Reactives in exceptions to this. Reactives always get to do the reaction. You can't deny someone their reactive ability or CP usage by this ruling.
Yes, I mean the example I saw was again T-Suns when they fire off Doombolt at Custodes. Custodes can still use the 4-out Feel No Pain to mortal wounds, even though that strat is during phase and not starter phase, right? Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So they made that as clear as mud. Well done, G-Dub. Everyone, golf clap. Next up, we have, I've just interspersed these. Storm Hostile can now be done turn 1. So you can't score the portion that says if your opponent holds no objective, you get a little bit of points. But you can score the one that says if you truly take an objective off your opponent, you get the points. Finn, how do you feel about this one?
I think it's interesting now with if you've got big infiltrating units and things like that, you've got a lot of decisions to make if they've got a footprint to take up, because they can actually, you have to move around the objectives, because obviously you don't want to just be on an objective, and that makes having small a unit like Nurglings, right, that can just push things like their infiltrators out. It actually lets you take up more of the board space unless they sit on an objective.
Yep.
So I mean, the odds aren't super high that they hit Storm Hostile, but you just don't want to be, especially in a team format, you don't want to be just giving up points turn 1 because they ripped Storm Hostile, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I've got 5 scouts on an objective.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting what you can do with the infiltrates. And things like that.
Well, the reverse of this is something that I really like, which is when you go second on turn 1 and your opponent pulls the God Draw of Area Denial and Extend Battle Lines, and they just put 1 unit on the middle objective and pop the absolute hell off for maximum points. And then at least when you rip Storm Hostile, you can be like, well, okay, I got something back for you doing that. Because of course they have to be all the way in the middle of for full area denial, and have to be on an objective. So at least going second on turn 1, Storm Hostile feels a lot better. But if you go first, there's no way your opponent should be letting you get Storm Hostile top of turn 1. There's just no way, and everybody should know that. With that being active, never, ever, 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 ever deploy scouts and infiltrators on objectives turn 1. Anyway, where were we? Lynchpin has now been capped at 15 points per turn. Gone are the days of smashing 20-plus points on your turn 5, which is something I definitely tried to do, and did at a number of team events. Finn, how does this affect anything at all? And does this make a Lynchpin a way less fun or less good or way more good mission?
I think it's getting table, a lot of armies, they're built that, they'll get tabled over the course of the game. And it makes them quite hard to play in Lynchpin. I think it really helps out those sorts of things. But I was personally never a fan of, they can score 3, 8, 18, 23 kind of thing.
Yeah, I was never a fan of it as well. Especially when you had one of the other changes that's going to be coming along with secret missions and allowing people to just get phenomenally ridiculous points scored at the bottom of turn 5. Charlie, what are your thoughts on this?
I think this is a good change, and combined with that other change you're talking about, it just stops armies who just don't play the game for 4 turns and come out taking a secret mission, scoring the 23, capping at 20, of course, getting 40 points on primary at the last turn, and then scoring the secondaries as well. Having done that, so I did that in one of the the GT games, and I think I scored 46 points in the last turn,
Yuck.
going
Yuck.
second, and my opponent just couldn't do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And that just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I did something similar. I played Tiki Touchwood with the Drakari army, who put me in jail for 4 turns, and it was Lynchpin. I went second. I'm not just going to let you put me in jail. Do not care as long as I have models left at turn 5, and I did, and I racked up 30-something points, and 15-5'd it. Being 10-10 going into the bottom of turn 5, just went bang 15-5. It was very, very silly. I think this is the best change for team events. Because you can just wait to see who goes second, and then all of a sudden you just do freaking nothing for 4 turns, and it makes those games very boring, and non-interactive. All right, Marked for Death has changed, so now you can no longer select models in units, or I think vice versa. Let me just double check that change. But what do you boys think of the change to Marked for Death? I already hated Marked for Death. I already think Marked for Death was a terrible secondary. Unless you're playing against knights or something.
Yeah, I agree. I always look at it as like, cool, I got a CP.
Yeah. Same. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the change is if you kill the bodyguard unit, you also have to kill at least one of the leaders attached.
That's correct. Or vice versa. If you select the character, well, you can never select the character in the unit.
You can't select the character,
Yeah. So that just kills it. Like, it totally kills it. I mean, what can be done to make Marked for Death a good secondary, though? Like, how would you guys change it to make it something viable? Because literally, I think I've scored it like 3 times this edition.
I mean, again, it becomes like a little bit memey, but like if you can select your opponent can select a unit for Marked for Death at the start of the game.
Yep.
If they draw it, it's something. But again, it comes to the how. With a lot of things where you keep things in secret, how could they have changed it, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I just think it's generally, like, I look at it as I get a CP, or I'm psyched, or if I've got enough CP, like, I cycle it.
Yeah. What about you, Charlie?
I'm thinking maybe go back to what they did in, was it 8th edition? One of the secondaries was just pick the 3 most points or highest, most expensive units in your army, and whenever you draw Marked for Death, it is just the 3. So it makes you think a little bit. Okay, if I move, say, this big brick of 400 points of something up, right? There's a chance my opponent could draw Marked for Death and just try and go for that unit.
Yeah, I don't know that one. I think that's the simplest thing that they can do. I have another solution, however. I think it should go like this: you pick Marked for Death, and then your opponent picks a unit, then you pick a unit, and then your opponent picks a unit. So your opponent picks 2 of their units, you pick 1 of their units. If at any point you kill one of the unit that you picked, you get 2 or 3 points instead of the 5. You kill the unit they picked, you get the full 5. And I reckon that would be way better than what we got right now. So,
I quite like that.
Yeah. So kill the unit you picked, you get the bottom, you get the little baby points. You kill the unit they picked, you get the full bang. And I think that would be a lot more fun as well. Because still, for like you probably make it min points, you probably only make it 2 points because you're going to pick the unit of freaking Kroot hounds that are trying to wall you off, and it can be killed by like anything in your army. But if you make that 2 points, well, there's a question whether you want those 2 points or you want the CP now. Because sometimes that CP is worth way more than 2 points to you, and sometimes it's not if you've got enough CP. So it's actually worth something rather than literally I just pull it and I forget it and I get rid of it immediately.
Yeah.
All right. The next change: units returning to the table still have persistent effects on them. And I think the biggest one that was used here, the example here, was having Oath of Moment on Angron, who comes back to life. Would he still have Oath of Moment on him if he came back immediately in the next turn? Like, he dies, you put Oath on him, you kill him in the shooting phase, he reses in their command phase, does he come back with Oath? I was always of the opinion that he's dead. So he died, so all the effects are removed. When he comes back, he's clean slated. But apparently he will come back with Oath on him. How do you feel about this?
I think Angron's maybe kind of almost caught in the crossfire. I think this is more targeting things that leave the table, right? With all the uppy-downy things in the game.
Exactly right. Like Necrons, uppy-downy Grey Knights, etc. And now Blood Angels getting it as well. Finn, what are your thoughts?
I don't hate it. I don't think it really changes things too much. Like it's not as if you're not going to uppy downy a unit just because it's been oathed or something like that. I guess what it means is that you've got to be a little bit more careful about where you place it when you come in, just in case they've got an Overwatch, because Overwatch is obviously a lot scarier when they got full rerolls on you. But again, I think it just causes like a little bit more careful placement when coming back in. I don't think it changes too much. I think it's more just a clarification.
Yep, and this was specifically clarified that this would not be in effect for cycled units. So if I have a Scout Sentinel that has Oath of Moment and dies, and I spend 2 CP to essentially bring it back to life, it is a brand new unit and will not have it on it. And so I guess you could extrapolate that as being kind of a bonus for GSC as well. So if you kill a GSC unit, they hit that 4+, comes back, clean slate, no debuffs, no nothing on it. So that is a good clarification. Not that GSC need it, need it. It's fine. It's fine. All right. A change that we alluded to, and probably one of the biggest changes to actually people playing the game by game, is that you do not get any primary on Battle Round 5 if you secret mission. A lot of people, I always assumed this was kind of what they intended. Like if you secret missions, you just can't get any other primary. But I was argued down, and I was shown to be incorrect at the time that you could definitely get bottom of turn 5 primary if you secret missioned. Charlie, does this dramatically change the optics for secret missions and their playability, or is this not touching the sides?
I think so some armies, people were designing armies to specifically score only turns 4 and 5. And to strategically not have any primary in the first couple of turns, just so they could just hit real hard in the end. I know a lot of things can do this, like the Baharoth, a Sweeping Hawk unit, can drop down, fire and fade, score secret mission and primary. There's a whole lot of different armies that can do this. I think this is a good change. Just means you have to play the game in the first half, and you don't just, I'm just going to wait, kill some stuff, and then come out and just do everything at the end.
Yeah, agreed. I had some big fears going into WTC that secret missions was going to somewhat ruin the WTC, and everyone was just going to secret mission the game into being boring and stale and very silly. I was very happy to be wrong on that front. But Finn, you went to WTC. Did you secret mission much yourself?
Never.
Good man. Sterling effort, sir. But what do you think about this change?
I like it that it forces the game to be played, right? Like you can't just turtle up and be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to sit here, do nothing, and just send my whole army to score turns 4 and 5. And that's all I'm going to do. So I think it's a really, really good way, like that the game is interactive from kind of almost start to finish.
Yeah, freaking-tastic.
Hot tip, though, on Scorched Earth, you can still burn on turn 5 and get that, even if you're secret.
That's true. Yeah, I was just about to mention that. All right, last one is Terraform. Can only be done once per turn. So there's no going first, putting someone in jail, and then terraforming 3 objectives, whilst they literally cannot get onto those. So you can terraform, I believe, once per turn, if I read that correctly. Which I think is a very good change because, I have seen and heard of people being put in jail, going second versus Space Wolves, and then they terraform all 3 objectives in the middle, and maybe your opponent gets to stop one of them if they brought a little bit of indirect fire for 5 Fenrisian walls or scouts or some crap, or if they've got something that can jump the lines. Finn, is this a big change, little change, medium change?
I think. Again, it's probably one of those ones that has to be played, but I think you will now see it in tournament packs as a way to vary up the general mission pack. Yeah,
because I always found Terraform to be... Actually, it was actually one of my favorite missions, but I never liked... I always had bad... I guess people always had bad things to say about it. I was like, this is people always freaking, for some reason, people around were like, oh, I love Lynchpin. I'm like, man, I love Terraform. And people are like, no, Terraform scrap. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I agree. I think we'll see it in a lot more GT packs now. Charlie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think any change that changes the tournament pack missions so that we have a bigger range is better because you don't want to end up playing the same 5 missions every weekend, right? And I know WTC definitely have their preferences. No Dawn of War, very limited sweeping engagement maps, and we're already cutting 30% of the missions out. And if we don't play this as well, we're always going to play supply drop and that kind of stuff. And I would rather play Terraform than Supply Drop.
Yep, agree. Supply Drop can go straight to hell.
Hey, but you can't secret mission and score turn 5 anymore, so that's good.
That's it, baby. That's really good. Finn, what's your least favorite mission? I'm just gonna throw some questions at you off the cuff.
Least favorite mission for me would be anything that is on the new, like basically anything that's on the new deployment.
Tipping point?
I actually hate tipping point more than missions.
Wait, which one's tipping point? Is that the one on the short edge or the long edge?
That's the funny edge. Hammer and anvil, isn't it?
Yeah, like
I 20. What's wrong with that one? I like that one. I don't like the Dawn of War one at all. I think that's horrible. But the Hammer and Anvil one I thought was pretty good.
No, see, like I've just had bad experiences, man, where I've played on tables where, like, you know, like not playing a shooting army. Some of the lines of sight through on those tables, I hate, and that, you know, like that's on me for playing those armies, but that's just my personal opinion. Well, there's just some tables on the tipping point that I do not enjoy. Well,
that's also could be it's just a new deployment. We haven't adapted terrain layouts for it yet, because I mean it's the first time in a while we've had a brand new. Well, a deployment map that felt brand new. I mean, even the short edge diagonal is pretty much just hammer and anvil with extra steps. Whereas this kind of feels brand new because all of our cordons, all of our avenues for blocking kind of got opened up, like because there is a bit of a diagonal feel to that one as well, where you start a bit earlier and you get to those firing lanes very quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things. Yeah, like building your list to play the old sets of tables, so to speak, and then having them also like transition onto that newer set. That's, you know, something to look at as well.
What's your least favorite, Charlie?
Supply drop, 100%.
Same here, mate. Brothers is yeah.
I think I've only ever won one game on supply drop.
Mate, playing as guard when I'm the games where I'm not playing 18 Bulgrin, because I pretty much only play 18 Bulgrin for like teams events, because I kind of hate playing 18 Bulgrin.
I remember very well, mate.
Supply drop is just the worst. It's just like, congrats, guard, you get no points for anything, and you can't hold the middle. So G freaking G. It was just so bad for so many different armies. It just like knocks armies out of contention. All right, it's time for some questions about NZ 40K. So I do have some pointed questions from some of our patrons about NZ 40K, but I wanted to ask you guys. So, walking into the NZ gaming culture, you wouldn't have been around for some of the hallowed times. So, all over the world, Australia has this perception as playing wonky 40K that somehow works. Like we play down under 40K, we play 40K that the rest of the world doesn't really understand. But when we go over and play against the rest of the world, we do pretty freaking well. New Zealand used to be that to Australia, as far as I can tell. When I came into 40K and competitive 40K in Australia, New Zealand were the boogeymen of like the ANZTC, which is the Australian New Zealand Team Championship. You guys used to come over and play 40K that we didn't understand, and as far as I can tell, were extremely prolific and very powerful and very good at it. What is it that you think makes New Zealand 40K unique, if anything? And I'll start with you, Finn, because you are the Capitan.
I think that we're slowly starting to find our own identity again. I think for a long time we've you can see at events now people are playing like the community's so small, so you kind of know everyone who goes to events. You kind of know what factions they own, like Charlie owns everything. But most but most people own a couple of armies here or there. And for a while, like New Zealand became a very meta chase meta, where it was just whatever the best thing in the game was, that's what people played. 1 month it'd be Eldar, the next month it'd be Guard. And I think we're slowly getting to the point now where people are actually and I think that also has something to do with the balance of the game, but people are like, hey, I can actually compete with my faction and how I like to play the game. So I think we're not at the point yet where, we're list innovators, which you'd see on the internet or things like that. But I think we're getting to the point where we're playing lists we're comfortable with, and styles that we like. That's how I'd kind of consider the meta at the moment.
What about you, Charlie? What's your perspective?
I think definitely the community is a lot more mature compared to when I first started playing middle of 8th, kind of when the second Marine book came out then. When I first started, we didn't really have a meta. Like, we'd net list some stuff, everyone wants to run Ironstorm, couldn't get any models. Sorry, not Ironstorm, Iron Hands back then.
Yeah.
And I think through the efforts of the community, having more competitive events, and shout out to Finn and the Kraken group for really kicking off that competitive event drive, getting standardized terrain. Terrain was a big factor. Every time we'd go to an event, we'll go, well, who's hosting it? Is there going to be terrain on the table? Because we don't know. And that influences what we play as well. And I think it's just in a much more stable place and people can experiment as well. And there's still people that garage hammer that we don't know about. That are really good at the game, that it's part of Finn's responsibilities to find these people and bring them in. I mean, like Jonty is a great example. Before he joined WTC, no one had ever played with him because he didn't play events.
Yep. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I love it when there's just some absolute savant hanging out in their garage and they walk into an event and their face just lights up because they realize they can hang. And I think that's absolutely excellent. I love hearing that stuff.
Didn't Jonty turn up to his first event with one of those like seamstresses rulers?
Yes, he did. Yes,
Wait,
he did. Yeah. Because he didn't have a tape measure, I think, or he had lost it. Yeah. So it was one of those cloth tapes. Yeah.
That's kind of cute, actually.
It was really funny.
Such wholesomeness. Okay, so let's go to our rating system. Boys, as for this entire MFM, all the points changes, all the rules changes, everything combined, how well do you think GW did out of 10, Charlie?
I reckon I'd give them a solid 8. For a September-October update, no major rules changes. I think it's actually done quite a good job.
Yep, fantastic. What about you, Finn?
I was going to go with an 8, so now I'm just going to give it an 8.5 just to be done.
Of course. I defer to Finn's wisdom.
So good. Did anything notably change for your said factions in any FAQs, boys? Because I was considering adding the FAQ changes to this show, but then when I delved through it, most of the changes were so minor and specific and kind of pointless to talk about. Like, okay, I'm going to tell you guys how a dead unit, Desolators, now no longer ignore the -1 for shooting indirect. Who freaking cares? Let's not waste our time and breath. But did anything notably happen to any of your factions, boys, that you think warrants a mention?
I mean, for me, it's just the Blood Surge, which has been the biggest thing. I mean, and it's definitely a workaround. Like, there's enough in that book to look at. So it's just basically a side shift and look at other things. And I don't play T-Suns, so. And I'm looking at Sisters, to be fair, and the points changes there. And there's definitely lists. It's just not, it's not the same list. So I think it's quite nice when you're starting to look at a faction for the first time. Like for me, post WTC, the changes kind of are like, oh, okay, cool. Like when I log into like the internet or something like that, it's not just like, bam, here's the list. You've got like time to look through things yourself and kind of be like, oh, I like this for this reason.
Yeah, exactly right. You get to do a bit more self-determination rather than walking in thinking you've had everything decided for you already. Because the Sisters list got solved pretty quickly as soon as the points came out for the Penitent Host. We were like, okay, so the Penny Host ain't it. Let's look elsewhere. Oh, cool. Yeah, Bring Us a Flame, and then it was pretty much the same list since the points came out until now. And I do love the Sisters are in a position where they're not as robust and they actually have to compromise, because it really felt like they got to have it all previously. They got to have like super units, some of the best utility units in the game in Dominions and Seraphim, one of the best transports in the game in Immolators that divides your units, and then just the rest was like the best characters. Like the Triumph was the best character in the game, arguably. Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely agree, mate. Charlie, what about your factions? Anything monstrously changed for them?
No, I think it's mostly quality of life and confirmations of how people were playing them anyway. I think the biggest one I saw was probably confirming that war bosses still get the wire effect when they come out
Yeah.
of a truck. That was quite a big change. I don't know why they... Anyway, it seems like it's back to what it was, which is good. Honestly, I'm more annoyed at some of the points changes because I can't make a 2,000 point Chaos Knights list that I like.
Oh, really?
What do you mean? It's 13
mate,
War Dogs.
It's 13 War Dogs.
Yeah. yes. I only have 12 painted, so there we go.
Oh, that's right. Well, it's 13 War Dogs and 10 Pink Horrors. There you go. I just made your list. Well, sorry, 12 and 10 pinks.
I should have talked to you on Sunday before list submission.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually brewing some Chaos Knights at the moment. I really quite like where they are. But God, baby, I got to tell it. Well, people who do not know by now, and everyone should know by now, Tank Commander's got Squadron, and now the self-contained, all-purpose Swiss Army knife problem-solving monster for 25 more points. So they 15 more points. I can't remember, but they're now 200. They're now 225, and they come with the ability to just order themselves all the stratagem support, all the goodness, all that stuff. And so I'm loving Tank Commanders, and they probably are much more takeable. I was running 1, sometimes 2 at most, and now, man, my lists start with 3 just windmill slammed into them, and it might get a little yuck out there for people who can't handle Tank Commanders easily.
It's definitely made them more versatile, right? Because you can bring them from reserve and order themselves as they come in, which is fantastic.
Yep. And now, because they get Squadron, that means they get lethal hits against vehicles.
Yes.
So a couple of the other guns are seeming a bit more viable. I'm actually planning to experiment with a Plasma Cushioner Tank Commander, because with lethals on that many plasma shots, it actually doesn't do a bad job of killing like rhinos and stuff now, which before it did actually struggle with and was pretty annoying. So I'm actually, and to be honest, if you're taking 3 Tank Commanders, you pretty much have no shooting apart from las cannons outside 24 inches. So bringing in something with a bit more longer range may be a great idea. But gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this show. Are you both going to that team event? I'm sure you are, Charlie. But Finn, are you going to that team event that Charlie's hosting?
I'm coaching.
Oh, who are you coaching for?
The board.
Say the team name. Say the team name on live here.
Do I have to bleep it? Am I going to have to bleep it?
The team is Myeongdong.
What? Oh, never mind. I don't want to know. Okay,
dude, it's actually wholesome. It's actually wholesome.
Okay, fine. Pop off. Tell me the story.
Okay, so where we live, there's our local hobby shop. Across the road, there is a Korean place called Myeongdong. So we all call it Dong, and yeah, as mature
and well-adjusted individuals, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have, it's out we eat there probably on average once every 3 weeks, and we've just decided to rip Myeongdong without them knowing at the team event.
Fair, okay.
So yeah, it's like right. It's like you calling yourself Naracoorte McDonald's. Team name, Naracoorte McDonald's.
Yeah, okay. I get it. That it is wholesome. It is actually wholesome. I approve. I think this is nice. Yeah. And Charlie, are you playing, coaching, TOing?
I will be playing. I got dragged into playing. So I'm part of Chili Cow Cartel, which is Tactical Chilli with Howling Cow, one of our commission painters. Yeah, so we just I've actually just been busy trying to get everything organized and set up. And
for sure,
Patricio is always coming up with new things that he wants to do at the last minute. So yeah, haven't had too much time to prep, so relying on the team to carry me.
Charlie, just one question.
Yep.
If you've got a commission painter on your team, why didn't they paint your 13th Chaos Knight?
I don't have one.
Oh. You don't own it. He doesn't own a 13 Chaos Knight. Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Anyway, we are done. We are starting to get into the chicanery and the shenanigans. We need to save that for part 2 because that's where that resides. In addition to answering beautiful listener questions, once again, Charlie, where can people find your podcast?
So just do a search for Tactical Chilli on either YouTube or Spotify, and we should come up if you want to listen to New Zealand events and us talking smack about it.
Fan-freaking-tastic. Thank you so much, boys, for coming on. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I do apologize for coming out probably a day, maybe even 2 days late, depending on how long Seamus turns it around. And gents, yeah, thank you so much. Good luck with everything and hopefully another successful coaching of Team New Zealand. Finn, I know you did an incredible job this year just gone, getting best sports. We're going to go over and discuss a bit of that goodness over on part 2. But love you both, boys. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, everyone. See you.
Just a far away.